Hi, I'm Clark and I'll be the cameraman today. I'm going to show you the audience. And there's Ben.
Hi guys, thank y'all for being here today. I just want to start off with a question. Have you ever wondered if you were in a room with one of your loved ones and they collapsed with a heart attack and nobody would know what to do? My dad is approaching 60 years old, and so I know that he's got a history of heart problems in his family, and this is a question that's crossed my mind. So today I want to teach y'all how to respond to a situation like this in confidence should it ever happen to you, because it's an emergency and we should all know how to handle these situations. And in case you're wondering if I'm qualified to teach all these skills today, I can assure you that I've been certified to perform CPR and perform aquatic rescues for 5 years of my life by 2 different accredited organizations. And I've been trained to teach these skills as an aquatics facility manager for over several years in my job. So the first thing I want to teach y'all today is how to respond to a cardiovascular emergency should you happen upon one. So I'm going to call up my visual aid, RJ, and he is going to volunteer as a person who has just suffered a cardiac emergency. So the first thing you want to do when you approach an emergency like this is you want to assess the situation, including the environment and the victim. So before I make any action, I want to assess this situation and make sure the scene is safe. So in my first assessment, I see that a victim has collapsed here in front of me, and I need to make sure that the scene is safe before I even approach him. If it's not safe, I'm going to wait for emergency help to arrive. So I come upon RJ, I see that the scene is safe, and I decide that it's okay to approach him. The second step you want to do is just check for any signs of life, and this is really simple. All you need to do is shake and yell and say, hey, are you okay? If I get no response here, I'm going to immediately want to call 911. If I'm by myself, I'll call 911 and get emergency response immediately. If there's someone with me, I'll tell them, hey, you go call 911 and come back to me, and then I'll proceed to check vital signs of life. So in checking vital signs, the way to remember this is with this mnemonic. You always want to check your ABCs. A stands for breathing. You want to get around on the back side of the victim's head, and you want to put your pointer fingers on their jawline and prop the head back and open so you make sure that their airway is open. So this is the A. This stands for airway. You want to make sure it's open. B stands for breathing, and when you're checking for breathing, you want to make sure that the victim, you're going to be checking for signs of breathing. So how you do this is you get your face down low to the victim's face, and you listen for breath coming from their mouth, and you observe down the chest line to see if the chest is rising or falling. So that covers your B and your ABCs. Thirdly, you want to check your C, which is cardiovascular. And in doing this, while you're checking for breathing, you're going to take your 2 fingers and you're going to move to the carotid artery on the neck, down from the Adam's apple on his neck, and I'm going to feel here for a pulse on his carotid artery. So that's how you check initially for vital signs of life. And from here on, we're going to assume that the victim neither has a pulse nor is breathing. And so in that case, it's immediately okay to proceed to CPR. So for a single rescuer on CPR on an adult, you're going to do everything in sets of 2 breaths to 30 compressions. So we already established that RJ doesn't have a breath or a pulse. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open his airway like we did earlier, and we're going to give him 2 deep breaths. So I'm going to just act that I breathe in 1, 2, and as I breathe, I'm going to make sure they're nice and deep and observe that his chest rises when I do so. So as I said, we're going to do everything in sets of 2 breaths to 30 compressions. So after I've given him the 2 breaths, I'm going to get my knees up on his side as close as I can to him to begin chest compressions. And the way we do chest compressions is you take your 2 fingers and you feel up his rib cage until you reach his sternum. And when you reach his sternum, you want to put 2 fingers for the width from the bottom of the sternum to the middle of his chest. And then you add your palm and you lock out your elbows and you proceed to chest compressions. So as I said, I'm going to do 30 compressions, and on each compression you want to depress about 1.5 inches to 2 inches to make sure you're pumping his heart. And once you complete the 30 chest compressions, you're going to go back to 2 breaths, and you're going to repeat this process for about 2 minutes, which equals to about 4 sets. And after you've Run this cycle for 2 minutes. You're going to reassess for signs of life using the ABCs, just like we said. So as we keep going, we're just going to keep going in sets of 2 minutes, 4 sets each time. Reassess for signs of life until health arrives. Now I'm going to address what would happen if RJ should come to and we get signs of life while I'm performing CPR. So as I said, what we're doing is we're just performing CPR 2 minutes until help arrives. And if in fact RJ does come to and we get signs of life on one of my assessments, we're going to want to move him into a position that is ideal for recovery. And so what we do here is I would need to roll RJ up onto his side. So what I do is I would take his arm that's farthest from me and put it on the side of his head, and I would grab the 2 largest areas of contact I have, which are his shoulders and his hip, and I'm going to roll him, and while I'm rolling him over, I'm going to take this leg and prop it up on the ground as a crutch, and then I'm going to take this arm and prop it on the ground as a crutch. So as I said, RJ is now breathing and has a pulse, and he's in the recovery position. And from here on out, I want to stay with him and observe signs of life and his comfort level until help arrives. So, thanks RJ. So today I've showed y'all just the basics of how you can perform CPR as a single rescuer on an adult. And you can do this in any situation when someone has any kind of cardiovascular emergency and they hit the deck and you're the only responder. This is for a single responder, and there's all kinds of other skills you can learn. You can learn how to do CPR on a baby. You can learn how to use an automatic defibrillator. You can learn airway blockage, but this is the most basic technique of how to respond to a cardiovascular emergency. And I just want to challenge y'all to cement these skills to your mind today and expand on others, because I believe that too often people assume that in every situation there's going to be someone who knows how to do CPR, and that it's never going to come down to them. But as I said in the beginning, when it's one of your loved ones and you're the only one on the scene who knows how to do this, you're going to be glad that you have these skills in that time of emergency. So with that, I want to thank y'all for your time and open up the floor for questions.
Oh, I have a question.
All right.
Is it possible that they can get hurt during chest compression? It looked like you're pressing pretty hard.
So he asked for the camera if it's possible to hurt the victim or injure the victim while I'm doing chest compressions. That's actually very common. So with CPR, the point is to keep the cardiovascular system pumping. When you're doing the chest compressions, you're actually pumping the heart for that person because it's not doing it on their own. So you're pressing the chest in, the heart is compressing and pumping blood throughout the body. So a common injury that happens when people are doing this chest compression is that when I press down, it might crack your sternum or some ribs, but that's actually perfectly okay. It happens all the time, and it means that you're probably doing your chest compressions correctly.
I have a question.
Sure.
How long, I know you're supposed to rotate between the compressions and the breaths, but are you supposed to like wait a pause? Like, do you wait between, or how long do you wait between each one, each set?
The 2 breaths are just supposed to be deep breaths, and that's kind of a skill that you learn just through practice. They're deeper than you feel like you take naturally, because you're wanting to get enough air into this person's lungs for their lungs to expand and their chest to rise. So the 2 breaths are really deep and long. Breathe, breathe. And then the chest compressions are meant to simulate your actual heartbeat. So what most programs teach is to compress once a second. So you want to do 30 compressions in 30 seconds.
Okay. Great.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you guys for your time.